Gymnastics is meant to inspire awe, but beneath the glittery and flawless routines hides a harsh reality. A single mistake can be catastrophic. These athletes test the limits of their bodies, balancing on beams no wider than a handspan or launching themselves from bars towering high above the mat. And sometimes, the sport they dedicate their lives to becomes deadly. These are the stories that shake us, not just because of how these lives were lost, but because they show just how fragile even the strongest truly are. Tragedy struck the gymnastics world on September 13, 2025, when 19-year-old Nao Albari, one of Indonesia's brightest rising stars, was training in Penza, Russia. The young athlete, preparing for his country's upcoming World Championships, was attempting a high bar routine, a skill meant to dazzle, to push the limits of human strength and precision. But in a heartbeat, everything changed. Albari fell awkwardly into a foam pit, the result of what was described as a severe neck injury. The crowd of spectators may have been absent, but the echo of that moment would resonate across continents. Rushed to GA Zakaran Hospital, Albari spent 12 agonizing days in intensive care. Hope lingered in the hearts of his coaches, teammates, and family. But despite the best efforts of doctors, he passed away on September 25th. Indonesia lost not just a talented gymnast, but a young man whose dreams were intertwined with the nation's pride, a hopeful contender for the 2028 Olympics, whose life was abruptly cut short. The news rippled through the gymnastics community like a shockwave. Ita Yuliati, president of the Indonesian Gymnastics Federation, spoke with heartbreak. Albari was a talented young athlete and a good person. Indonesian gymnastics has lost one of the nation's finest sons. This is a deep blow and sorrow for us. May the family be given strength. Across borders, the Russian Gymnastics Federation confirmed it was investigating the incident. Vasily Titov, the federation's vice president, offered condolences and assistance with repatriating Albari's body, adding, "Unfortunately, the athlete was not prepared to perform such a complex element." The timing of the tragedy made it even more poignant, with the 2025 Artistic Gymnastics World Championships set to take place in Jakarta just a month later. Albari's absence left a void that could not be filled. He had been expected to compete for medals at SEA Games 33 and had the potential to represent Indonesia on the Olympic stage. His passing, CNN Indonesia reported, was a heavy blow to the country's gymnastics scene. And for many, it served as a chilling reminder of just how fragile life can be, even for the strongest and most disciplined athletes. Albari's accident evokes memories of past gymnastics tragedies, from Julissa Gomez, who was paralyzed after a vault and later died from complications, to Elena Mukina, the Soviet star whose life was claimed by the Thomas Salto in 1980. For Albari, the pursuit of excellence ended in heartbreak, leaving a nation and a sport mourning the loss of a promising life taken too soon. In the quiet aftermath of his passing, fans, fellow athletes, and young gymnasts around the world are left to reflect. Even amid the beauty, precision, and artistry of gymnastics, danger always lurks, a single moment capable of shattering dreams forever. She was only 12, bright, joyful, full of life, the kind of girl who could light up a room without even trying. Trevan Hope Joslin wasn't just a student at Taverham High School in Norfolk. She was a presence, confident, kind, and one of the best gymnasts in her class. No one imagined that an ordinary day in gym class would be her last. It was March 12, 2014. Just another PE session. A simple gymnastics lesson. Nothing extreme, nothing dangerous, just children laughing, stretching, and tumbling across mats under the familiar echo of bouncing sneakers. Near the end of class, students could choose their favorite apparatus. Trevan, as always, was eager. She went for the pommel horse. She had already completed a few successful vaults. Everything seemed normal. She sprinted toward the horse with the grace and determination of a girl who had done this countless times before. But this time, her right foot caught the edge of the apparatus. A fraction of a second, a tiny misstep, Trevan tumbled forward, landing face down on the mat. At first, No one realized how serious it was. She looked like she might recover. Friends gathered around, some thinking she had simply been winded. But then the fear set in. She tried to speak, but the words barely came. Something was terribly wrong. The PE teacher rushed to her side. Staff called for help. The school's pastoral care supervisor, Lynn Hammond, began CPR. Everyone hoped, prayed that she would breathe, that she would be okay. But as Trevan was rushed to Addenbrooke's Hospital in Cambridge, the harsh truth was already taking hold. Doctors confirmed the unthinkable: a catastrophic hyperextension of the neck. Her spinal cord had been critically damaged. Trevan fought for her life for a week, but on March 19, 2014, she passed away. A bright, young life gone in the blink of an eye. The inquest revealed that Trevan had a pre-existing neck condition, one that could have limited her ability to safely participate in high-impact gymnastics. The school was aware, but not all staff had been informed due to an administrative oversight. Investigators were clear. It wasn't negligence. No wrongdoing was found. Even a child with a perfectly healthy neck could have suffered a fatal injury that day. Still, knowing there was no fault offered little comfort. The assistant head teacher, Shirley Naseby, remembered Trevan with tears. She was confident, enthusiastic, one of the better gymnasts in the class, she said. The last memory of Trevan, smiling mid-run, vaulting toward her future, remained painfully vivid. Her parents chose silence in the media, a grief too deep for words, but the school sought to honor her memory. A quiet garden was created, a cherry tree planted in her name. Head teacher Peter Ware said students and teachers still remember her warmth. She always had a smile on her face. She will be remembered with great fondness. The official verdict was accidental, but for anyone who has ever sent a child off to school thinking they were safe, it felt like more. It felt like the very fabric of an ordinary day had been ripped apart, leaving a void that could never be filled. Samantha Cerio was the embodiment of balance of strength, intellect, and purpose. A senior at Auburn University, she wasn't just a gymnast. She was a scholar, an engineer, a perfectionist. While others chased fame, Samantha chased the stars literally. With a job offer from Boeing and her aerospace engineering degree nearly complete, she seemed destined to conquer every challenge she set her mind to. On the mat, she moved with elegance and precision. Off it, she carried herself with humility and discipline. Teammates admired her. Coaches trusted her. The future was hers to command. And then, in a single, brutal moment, it all changed. April 5, 2019. NCAA Regional Semifinals in Baton Rouge. It should have been another exhilarating performance. One more chance for Samantha to help Auburn advance. The arena buzzed with energy. Music, cheers, chalk dust in the air, routine warm-ups. Nothing out of the ordinary. Samantha stepped onto the floor with quiet focus, ready to pour 18 years of her life into a final, flawless routine. Then came the tumbling pass, the double front flip, and then the sound. A sickening, heart-stopping collapse. She had under-rotated by just a fraction of a second. It was enough. Both knees buckled. She crumpled to the mat, screaming in pain. Tendons tore, knees dislocated. The music stopped. The crowd went silent. Medical staff rushed in, but even as she remained conscious, the agony was unbearable. Within hours, video footage of the accident had spread across the internet. Millions watched. Millions dissected the worst moment of her life. And Samantha, already grappling with unimaginable pain, saw her private disaster turned into public spectacle. "My pain is not your entertainment," she tweeted. Later, in an interview with Today, she said, "You kind of want to watch it just to see what happens, but you don't think about the people it could impact." Her courage became a new kind of strength, not about sticking a landing, but about reclaiming her dignity. Weeks later, she posted on Instagram, "I am hanging up my grips and leaving the chalk behind." Gymnastics was over, but Samantha's voice remained firm, her spirit unbroken. Her next goal? Walk down the aisle on her own feet? Through multiple surgeries and months of grueling therapy, she fought back, refusing to let her body dictate her future. And when she finally walked down that aisle, she smiled with every step, a victory of resilience over tragedy. Her story didn't just end with retirement. It sparked a conversation. Why were dangerous routines still rewarded? Why weren't safer measures in place to protect athletes like her? Coach Jeff Graba later called that night one of the toughest of my life, but Samantha's grace became a guidepost for everyone who witnessed it. She reminded the world that true strength isn't only about what happens in the air, it's about how you rise when everything falls.
Townsville was last month found guilty of breaches after the 19-year-old gymnast in June last year. Michelle Maitland fell and hit her head on a section of concrete.
June 18, 2009, Townsville, Australia. The night started like any other. 19-year-old Michelle Maitland bounded out the front door, calling back to her mother, "Are we having that steak when I get home?" She never waited for an answer and she never came back. That was the last time her mother would hear her voice. Inside the Aitkenvale gym, the familiar rhythm of practice filled the air. Feet hitting mats, bodies flipping, coaches shouting encouragement. But on that night, one misstep, one overlooked detail, would turn routine training into tragedy. Michelle, determined and focused, attempted a backward twisting layout, a move meant for elite gymnasts. She soared into the air, body spinning, heart racing. For a fleeting moment, everything seemed perfect. Then, disaster struck. Instead of landing on the safety of padded mats, Michelle crashed headfirst onto bare concrete. A section of the floor that should have been shielded by meters of protective matting had been left exposed. There was only half the required padding. Her skull collided with the unforgiving surface with catastrophic force. The sound echoed like a grim warning through the gym. Coaches and teammates rushed to her side, but it was too late. Rushed to Townsville General Hospital. Michelle's condition was critical. Her family clung to hope, but by the next day that hope had vanished. Michelle was gone. A bright, laughing daughter, sister, and friend had been taken in the most preventable way imaginable. Investigations revealed chilling negligence. Her coach wasn't qualified to teach the move she attempted. Someone had moved the mat earlier and failed to replace it. No one double-checked. And because of that single lapse, Michelle lost her life. Her mother, Anne, later recounted the horrifying truth. Her skull was smashed to smithereens. Words no parent should ever speak. The tragedy sent shockwaves through Queensland. Safety audits across gymnastics clubs exposed alarming deficiencies. Only 8% of facilities had adequate measures to prevent contact with hard surfaces. Many gyms operated with unqualified coaches, poor planning, and unsafe equipment. Michelle's death wasn't a freak accident. It was a disaster waiting to happen. Townsville Gymnastics was eventually fined $70,000 for breaching safety obligations. But for Michelle's family, no fine, no report, no punishment could restore what was lost. Anne called it bitter justice. "I wasn't expecting her not to come home," she said quietly, still grappling with the weight of such preventable loss. On what would have been Michelle's 22nd birthday, her family gathered outside the same gym, lighting candles in the dark. Each flickering flame was a tribute, a warning, a reminder of a life cut far too short. Anne's plea to others was stark and urgent. Don't take the manager's word for it. Check for yourself. Michelle had returned to gymnastics not as a competitor chasing medals, but as a young woman reclaiming a passion she loved. She wasn't seeking fame, just joy, yet her story became a haunting testament to what can happen when safety is ignored. A chilling reminder that behind every flip, every landing, the smallest oversight can turn deadly. January 26, 2025, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Center City pulsed with electricity. The streets were alive with chaos and jubilation as thousands of Eagles fans poured into every corner, voices ricocheting off glass towers, fireworks exploding like cannon blasts in the winter sky. Green smoke drifted over the crowd in thick clouds. Everywhere, chants of "Fly, Eagles, fly" filled the night, bouncing from building to building, blending with horns, cheers, and the rhythmic pounding of boots on pavement. For one evening, the city itself seemed to breathe with victory. Among the revelers was 18-year-old Tyler Sabapathy, a freshman at Temple University. He wasn't just another face in the crowd. Tyler was a gymnast prodigy, a young man whose talent had earned him more than 120 medals across competitions. Friends and coaches described him as fearless, relentless, precise, and disciplined. He was a young man whose body seemed to defy gravity, whose balance and control made difficult maneuvers look effortless. That night, caught in the electric current of celebration, Tyler moved with the quiet confidence of someone who had mastered the impossible. At the corner of 15th and Market, Tyler's eyes landed on a light pole, slick with condensation. Fans had already begun climbing it, daring one another higher, each ascent greeted with cheers. To most, it was reckless, dangerous. But to Tyler, it was instinct. Years of gymnastics, years of training his body to twist, rotate, and land perfectly, told him he could handle it. He approached, his movements fluid and calculated, almost like stepping onto a familiar apparatus. He gripped the pole, hooked his legs, and began to climb. The crowd cheered, seeing not just a fan celebrating, but a young man who seemed untouchable in the air. For a fleeting moment, everything seemed under control. Tyler's gymnast's precision carried him upward. The pole became his stage, the cheering crowd his audience. But in an instant, the celebration turned to horror. A sudden slip, merciless, sent him plummeting. Time slowed as his body twisted midair, arms flailing in a desperate, instinctive attempt to correct the fall. Then, the unthinkable. He struck the concrete below. The impact reverberated like a gunshot through the crowd. The roar of excitement turned instantly to a chorus of screams. Fireworks and cheers dissolved into gasps of terror. People rushed forward, helpless, faces frozen in disbelief as the night's joy collapsed into a nightmare. Paramedics fought their way through the chaos, sirens cutting through the winter air as Tyler was loaded onto a stretcher and rushed to Jefferson Hospital. Family, friends, and teammates gathered, clutching hope like a lifeline, praying over the machines that kept him alive. But the trauma was devastating. The brain injuries were severe, irreversible. For 2 agonizing days, they waited. And on January 28, 2025, Tyler Sabapathy passed away at just 18 years old. The loss sent shockwaves through Temple University, the gymnastics community, and Tyler's hometown in Toronto. The university's president struggled to articulate the grief. The loss of a promising young man like Tyler is both tragic and traumatic. There are no words that can make sense of it. Tyler wasn't only an academic achiever in exercise and sports science. He was admired for his discipline, his relentless drive, and his ability to push beyond limits. Professors saw a future leader. Teammates remembered his grit, his laughter, and his unmatched work ethic. His family remembered the boy who had left Toronto full of dreams, only to have them cut short in an instant. Video footage from that night still circulates online. Fans climbing poles, fireworks slicing across the skyline, the city awash in celebration. But for those who knew Tyler, the footage is unbearable. What was meant to be a night of triumph became a night of permanent loss. A boy who had seemed untouchable, whose body had mastered gravity, was grounded forever by a single tragic misstep. In the days that followed, tributes poured in from across the gymnastics world. Coaches, athletes, and even strangers took to social media to honor his talent, his spirit, and the bright, boundless energy that Tyler carried. Candlelight vigils were held. Messages of sorrow and remembrance flooded in. Yet the pain remained acute for those closest to him, the family who had watched their prodigy soar, only to see him fall in the most cruel of ways.